alliteration. Is this thing on? Oh boy, I'm excited for this video. So one thing I really want to do with my YouTube channel, my social media, my art is to teach. To start it off, I want to start teaching or giving some tips and lessons on how to draw with a pen. This week, the first lesson or tip I'm going to go over is shading. Shading with a pen, how to shade with a pen, what I do, some do's and don'ts that I've learned over the years, and how to go about accomplishing some of the shading that I have come to do with a pen. For example, I'm going to pop up some drawings that I've done and you can see some of the shading and textures I have accomplished with a pen. Without further ado, let's just get to it. So first, you got to pick your pen. My weapon of choice, Bic ballpoint pen. Nothing fancy, you don't need to use Bic. Just go ahead and find a pen that you are comfortable with and use that. I like to use smooth Bristol pad. You'll find that different textures of paper, whether it's canvas, watercolor paper, loose leaf paper, Bristol pad, the different thickness and texture of the paper is going to drastically change the texture of the actual drawing and shading, especially with the pen. So, the biggest thing with practicing shading with a ballpoint pen is getting used to every level, every gradient you have from black to white. Now obviously I'm using a black pen, you can use a blue pen, a red pen, that doesn't matter. What you need to get used to is going very light and then going very dark. So the most basic thing I think anybody can do is, well, find a pen that works first. The first thing you're going to want to get used to is just going from light to dark. That is the easiest, that's the most basic thing you're going to want to get used to. What do? Is I scribble. Okay, that is my technique. The Josh Ryle technique is just scribbling. So I'll show it here. I'm going to use the side of the pen, so I'm not going straight on top of the paper like this. Using the side of the pen, and I adjust the pressure. Okay, you might hear me say the word pressure a lot because it's very important when drawing or shading with a pen. So I'm just scribbling. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm not going up and down, left, right, circular. I'm just scribbling. Now, since I've done this for years, I'm sure there are some patterns deeply embedded into my central nervous system that I'm not aware of. But for you at home practicing, just scribble. It does not need to be neat. We are scribbling. We're slowly building and adding layers. Because like I said, we're going from light to dark. I'm not going to use this whole length here because I don't want to take up too much time. But this is pretty much all I'm doing. My entire technique is just scribbling, is layers upon layers upon layers of scribbling. And this is the best way to get used to using a pen, is just practicing these gradients here, right? So that's obviously pretty dark, that's obviously pretty light. And you can practice going from white to just a teeny tiny bit of darkness, right? So this will be white, and then I'm going to go to just very, very light gray. And again, it is pressure. I am barely touching the pen to the paper. It is very gentle. And to get a very smooth look, you need to build up the layers. The layers is what is going to give that nice smooth appearance, that gradual increase in shadow or darkness. Now if you don't want to do it smoothly, if you want to create some kind of texture, go ahead and adjust your pressure and go a little heavier. So this is, again, this is gentle, this is nice and smooth. If I wanted to make it a little, let's say, grittier, a little bit more textured, I will space out the scribbles a little more. I'll make it more open. I'm pushing harder, and now you can see it's not as smooth, but it's still got the job done from going from white to a pretty light gray. If you were to zoom out, this isn't very dark. Now again, this is just my technique. I wouldn't even call it the Josh Ryle technique or anything. I guarantee there's plenty of people who have found their way around a pen with scribbling. Some alternative things you could do, right? We could cross hatch. So again, from going from light to dark. Cross hatching is the practice of using straight lines to produce shadows. And the cross part is once you do lines in one diagonal, you do them in the opposite diagonal as well. This is another common practice among people who use ballpoint pens. I prefer to not use this because I like more of a seamless transition. You can really tell that I'm going up and down here. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's people who like that appearance and they're going for that, so they do it. But for portrait drawing, for anatomy, I like to be as realistic as possible, so I don't want to see the pen marks. But yeah, the best thing, one of the easiest things I think to do is anytime you have a pen in your hand, practice this. You know, it doesn't need to be left to right or right to left. It could be if you're taking notes in class or if you have a piece of paper in front of you, right at the top of your loose leaf paper, you know, you have those lines. Practice shading in that corner. I'd like to explain more as to the scribble, but there's really nothing to explain. I'm legitimately just scribbling with a pen and adding layers and layers and layers and layers to get different levels of a gray. This specific kind of shading here is something that I've done for probably a decade throughout high school and college. Every time I had a piece of paper, you can guarantee at the top of the page there was some kind of shading or shadow like this. So yeah, I think that's a good place to stop for this first one. I don't want these to be big, intricate, long lessons. And this isn't this series. This isn't going to be like a 10-step process to learning how to draw like Josh Ryle. That's not what this is. These are just going to be little tidbits, little lessons that I think could help you. And again, any questions, any suggestions, I'd be open to talking or discussing any and everything there is to know about a pen. So to kind of reiterate what I went over, so pen, paper, pressure, practice. Alliteration. That's funny. I didn't expect that to happen. But yeah, those are the keys here. You know, you want to find good paper that you like. You want to find a good pen, a pen that's going to be consistent for you. You're going to want to mess around with pressure, get used to that pen, get used to light pressure, medium pressure, and heavy pressure, and then practice. Practice, practice, practice until you get to a point that you're happy with your abilities with shading, and then move on to an actual drawing and apply that shading in those techniques that you've learned. Not sure what the next lesson will be with a pen. It might not even be next week, but I'll be doing more videos about pen work. God, I'm so awkward at this. Alright, I'm out. See ya.